The best way to reduce global emissions is not to shut down Canadian industry, it's to grow it. You know, here's just one example. Canada leads the world in tough environmental standards. We do so much so well at the best levels of responsible development. Here's a great example. In China, manufacturing a ton of aluminum produces 17 tons of CO2. In Canada, it produces just 2. That means we would actually grow our economy and reduce global emissions if more of that aluminum was made right here in Canada. Not punishing people for heating their homes or driving their cars, but luring investment away from countries with lower environmental standards and bringing it home to Canada. Now, speaking of pointless gestures that will cost Canadians a lot of money and do nothing for the world's climate, let me talk about the carbon tax. There is no idea in Canada that has had a worse year than the carbon tax. And I remember not so long ago when pundits and experts were writing obituaries for Conservative parties for not supporting a carbon tax. Now, they're writing obituaries for parties that do support the carbon tax. Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals in Ontario, gone. Thank you, Ford Nation. Jason Kenney and the United Conservative Party are about to take care of the NDP in Alberta. Even Liberals are running away from it. In PEI, the Liberal government will submit a plan this fall that won't include a carbon tax. And, you know, I remember I was watching the Ontario election, and I got to tell you, one of the most frustrating days was when a poll came out that said that the people in Ontario opposed the carbon tax at a rate of 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 people in Ontario were opposed to the carbon tax. And I saw an article with one of these experts who was writing a very intellectual article in one of the major newspapers. And the gist of the article was along the lines of, and I think one of the actual quotes was, the people of Ontario don't support the carbon tax because they just don't understand it. Now, I've traveled all over this country. There is a carbon tax revolt brewing. And I can tell you, the reason more and more Canadians don't support the carbon tax is precisely because we do understand it. And even Justin Trudeau is starting to cave, but he can't even get walking away from his own policy right. Instead of just getting rid of the carbon tax altogether, he's decided to give big businesses and big polluters a huge break. This summer, he very quietly exempted 90% of their emissions from his tax. Now, that means the single mother will still pay the tax on 100% of the gas she buys to drive to work, the groceries she buys to feed her kids. But industrial polluters and big businesses with their powerful lobbyists will enjoy a massive loophole. Now, Conservatives know the carbon tax just isn't bad for big business, it's bad for absolutely everyone. And that's why, come 2019, my first act as Prime Minister will be to get rid of the carbon tax once and for all. and more Canadians are seeing through all of these liberal deceptions. You know, liberals always like to try and wrap themselves up in good intentions, but their policies invariably hurt the very people they claim they want to help. They try and convince people that they're motivated by compassion. But we all know that there is nothing compassionate about their policies. There is nothing compassionate about a deficit. There's nothing fair about leaving the next generation of Canadians a mountain of new debt, with more and more of their tax dollars going to pay bankers and creditors. Il n'y a rien de compatissant à taxer la prospérité ou à chasser les investissements, ou à fermer des usines et mettre des travailleurs à pied. Il n'y a rien de compatissant à menacer des millions d'emplois avec une attaque sans précédent contre les petites entreprises, ou à étouffer les familles qui tentent de joindre les deux bouts avec plus d'impôts.